Hey guys, and welcome back to the Casual Word and Casual Word Radio, where we continue our endeavor to change the world one word at a time. I'm your host, Langley, and we're very excited to have Miss Iffat Walker back on. We tried to do this earlier in the week and had some technical difficulties, but praise God, we are still here. And definitely thank you for taking time out of your schedule a second time this week to sit down with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, Langley. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm all yours.
Well, we were talking briefly, guys, and of course I didn't post that, so no one really knows what we were talking about, but we were just kind of getting into her life. And I know that she's from Savon, which is a small community here on the island. And what I was curious about is as I'm learning here, I see that there is pride, like as there should be, I would suppose, in people being from certain areas, right? And did you ever experience growing up that there was a level of self segregation? Like, do people from different communities interact, or did everybody kind of stay in their own space?
Well, I'm gonna say I grew up in the market square right outside of Savon, within that area.
Mhm.
And we saw everyone, from all over the place every day. So I never felt like anything was segregated. I don't know. My parents, we were really sheltered. So, I don't really know what was going on
Outside.
outside of, yeah, what was happening and what I considered to be my world. My world to me was Savon,
Mhm.
and everything surrounding Savon. So, um, I'm a 78 baby. Grew up in the market square in the 80s, okay? Partially in the 90s. And we saw that was the epicenter of tourism at the time for St. Thomas. It was right there in the market square. You saw everyone from all around the world.
Okay.
All the different communities, the different vendors from around the island, farmers, and you just had people that would always be there. So no one was ever a stranger to me. I mean, um, life seemed simple. It was normal, and I loved it.
So do you think that experience helped shape your passion in terms of
Oh,
community and helping? Because I see that there's kind of this there's two sides of this story. You've got people who um, value the tourism and they value the experiences of people meeting people from all over the world. But then you have people who are like, get out of here. We don't want you, and they don't want to open their doors to anybody else.
so I'll tell you a funny story because I experienced both. Being that every day after school we would be in the market square, and there would always be tourists around. My dad is a vendor now at the Vendors Plaza, but he was also a vendor at the market square. So he's one of the original ones over there for many, many years. The one thing, even though my father's business depended upon tourism, what he did not appreciate was tourists constantly taking pictures of us.
Mm.
Um, I'll never forget, here in Atlanta, actually, I was at a yard sale with my aunt, and we saw this picture. It was huge, it was blown up, of this guy kneeling down in the market square praying. That was a picture of my dad.
Really?
Yeah, that
Oh, wow.
someone took in St. Thomas, blew it up, evidently sold it, and then, years later, it ended up, you know, I mean, there's a level of respect that sometimes is missed,
Mhm.
and not exploiting people. When I saw that, I understood why my father would get upset when people would take pictures of us when we were children. Because I never understood. I mean, I love taking pictures. All the pictures I have on social media, they're all over
Right. I'm
Facebook.
the same way.
Yeah, so I've always been accustomed to, posing for the camera. It was just something that we did all the time, but my dad hated it and I loved it. But it wasn't until that experience that I understood where and when the respect for culture and just respect for people's privacy and simply asking. I love our tourism industry, okay?
Mhm.
But I understand there's a part of the education that we need to do, in educating our tourists when they come, like when you go to different places, you go to
Right.
different countries and they tell you, hey guys, this is what you do in this place. When you go into this area, the people that live here, they, either shake their hands or don't shake their hands. I think simple things like that, incorporating that into the introduction of tourists coming into the community would be helpful. Because I understand why some people are just kind of over it. And I understand why others fully embrace it. I think it needs to be fully embraced, but with some respect, some education, and some clear boundaries that should
Yeah.
not be crossed. Because I mean, there's a lot of places that have those boundaries, and you just don't do it. So
Yeah.
I think home. I don't think we put our foot down enough in a unified manner that says this is what we accept and this is what we do not accept.
And that's a
I don't
good
think we have
point.
to accept
I was
everything.
thinking, yeah, and well, and as you're talking about it, do you think because it is in fact multicultural here
Mhm,
that
mhm.
there it's very hard to be unified as to what would be acceptable or unacceptable? And did you find that kind of growing up? I'm curious because I know there's a lot of different customs and some things, but I mean overall, there seems to
I
be
think,
some
yeah,
semblance there.
I think there's just multicultural places all over the place. And, I mean, when in what they say, well, I say this, when in New York, behave like you're from New York, you know what
Right,
I'm saying?
right, right.
I mean, you just gotta, I think that uh, we've always been a multicultural environment. That's the thing that I love about the Virgin Islands.
Right.
Coming up, growing up, I mean, I had people from Africa in our home. We had people from India, all in Pakistan, from Saudi Arabia in our home. That was in the 80s, in the 90s. Okay. So that was nothing new. My family is from, on the mother's side, is from Antigua. From the father's side, they're from Tortola,
Okay.
they're from all over the place. So it's always been a multicultural environment. I think we simply need to put our feet down. And that means, okay, I think that can be incorporated in the way we market ourselves as a territory.
Right.
Simple things. I mean, it starts there, just simple marketing of what the expectations are when you go to the US Virgin Islands. And we, as an organization, I do that. Our agency does that because we have a bunch of tourists that come in and people that come on island to work specifically with our agency, Community Action Now. And a part of our introduction to them is, hello, good morning, hello, good afternoon. Those are the things that you do and you say when you come here.
Hmm.
You know, it's very important that you do that, and we make this plain. It's not I'm afraid to tell them that or else they're not going to want to come. No, they want to know what are the expectations, right?
So how
So
do you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
mhm,
I was just curious when you talk about cultural respect, and we're going to back it down a little bit. As you know,
mhm,
we know what we would like to expect from tourists as they visit, right? How do we, as growing up in this area and places that
mhm,
I've seen, how do you create the cultural respect internally amongst people
mhm.
who live here, right? Because
Yeah,
that's always the tricky question, right? Is how do we create self-respect and then respect between ourselves? But because I've always said that we demand and command respect from other
mhm.
people while still disrespecting each other.
Well, so here's the thing.
In a lot of cases. And so I'm just I'm learning the culture here and some of the ways and the nuances. And so I'm always curious about how that can be accomplished.
Absolutely. So we're some funny people. We're some funny acting people.
Yeah.
You've learned that by now, right?
It's unique. It's definitely a unique experience.
It's almost like roll with the flow kind of thing. I mean, even me, growing up Virgin Islander with a mother that had a heavy New York accent, right? Always influenced my accent quite a bit. So I wasn't exactly what you would call a Virgin Islander, two Virgin Islanders, right?
Mhm.
Because I never really had the accent. So some of the things I think is just getting to know people and getting to know and just paying attention to what you see. As far as how does that, how do we do that within our own communities? One household at a time.
Yeah.
One
But-
household at a time. There's a time when we were, like I told you before, generationally, you'll notice a shift in the populations and the
Mm,
demographics of people that come into the Virgin Islands. Virgin Islands has always been the island of passing through, in a sense, So again, my parents were from Tortola. My grandparents were paternal, and the others were from Antigua. And that's the main islands, from many, many other islands and other places, but those were the main ports of
mm,
entry, right? Um, but then you have, and really I believe, allowing others that come into the Virgin Islands culture to understand that we have a blended culture. Okay, we do. We have a blended culture. Our
absolutely.
foods are a reflection of that. Um, it starts with each household. It starts within the education system. And I think every day we're doing those things. It's not the easiest, when we have so many different barriers that we are impacted with. Let's talk about some real things. And I'm pretty sure you've seen this, maybe on a much larger scale, given the area that we have to work with on the island of St. Thomas, 32 square miles. Within 32 square miles, within less than a mile, you're going to see the outbursts of those with mental illness, right?
Yes. Yes.
On a large scale. It
Yeah.
seems like there's so much, right? And that's because there is so much. So when I hear people say, how do you expect this from others when you're not doing it yourselves? Well, here's the thing. I look at it like this. If I go into someone's household and their household is dirty, right? I don't expect to come in there and dirty up their house even more. I come in and I respect them,
Hmm.
regardless to whether their household is dirty or not.
Right.
I don't say, oh, they're dirty, I'm just gonna throw some trash on their floor just because
Right.
they have it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's respect for
You
being
don't do
a human being,
that. Yeah, yeah,
and being a fellow person. I think a lot of times we always label people, and we label people's based on their ideals or based on their situation, and fail to remember that they're a human being, and we don't know what they're going through. We don't know why that's happening. We don't know what is actually beneath what we observe. And we just got to
absolutely.
remember to have that level of compassion.
Absolutely. I say that to say, when you go into a household where it's just like, let's say you're in a household where it's just complete and utter disaster, there's usually something going on there.
Mhm.
It's not for you to judge. It's just for you to, you observe what you observe, you support where you can support, help, but don't make the situation worse. So by being respectful and understanding that, treat people like you would want to be treated. That's
Absolutely.
how I say it. Treat people. That's how, others that come in, you shouldn't have the idea in your mind that, you know what, they're filthy, I'll just help them be more filthy, or they're
Right.
this
Well,
way,
you're part of the
they're
problem.
rude.
Yeah.
Yeah, you become the Virgin Islands has something that's very unique. And one thing is that we've been under a state of emergency for mental health
Hmm.
for quite a while. Okay. And that's unique. I mean, how many places have you heard of that where the governor has actually declared a state of emergency in the location?
Yeah. You don't. I mean, this is the first I've ever heard of that, honestly.
Yeah.
So
So
that's a unique experience.
it's very unique. So coming in with that, you understand that there are some things that are going on. You may see people that may have just a terrible attitude. Yeah, like I get frustrated, okay, as a Virgin Islander when I go places and I'm like, oh my God, what is up with her attitude? I just
Right.
ordered one thing. Why is she being so rude to me? You know what I mean? But then I have to remember, you know what? There's some things that she's dealing with that I might not be dealing with, like power constantly going off every other day. I don't know what her
Yeah.
morning looked like. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I don't know what it took her to get here. I don't know, what's happening. See, that's just the type of person I am. I believe in, treating people the way I'd like to be treated, but also stopping for a moment and thinking like, why is that person behaving in that manner? Something must be going on, but
Correct.
it's not for me to go delve in and dive in and let
No,
them
it's
invite me
it's,
in,
it's just an
right?
awareness. you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
because
It's an only.
I was having that conversation with a good friend yesterday, and so often we look at the symptom, right? And we see the
Mhm.
symptom, and we base our reaction or that level of judgment, which we shouldn't have anyway, on the symptom, and we fail to realize that there's something going on that created what you're seeing. Like you said,
Right.
there's something either that they're dealing with emotionally, spiritually, physically, something going on at home. So there's always an underlying issue. There's always a root cause to whatever you're being exposed to. And I think you made a great point that we have to take that second or that millisecond and have the awareness that, yes, it may be uncomfortable that that person is acting that way to you. However, there's something going on that has generated that behavior, and
Yeah,
sometimes it's a fine line between awareness and excusing it, and that's sometimes where we find ourselves trying to figure out how to do that is, you know, you may have something going on, but it's still not completely okay, right, to be rude and inconsiderate, but
absolutely.
how do you find that balance when dealing with people, because you're dealing with personalities. And so with that, community action now, let's talk about that, because we're in here now with communities and understanding people and how we service the needs, and that, that's something that I'm very, very passionate about, very dear to my heart, is servicing the needs. And even once I've been here, trying to figure out where I can get plugged in to service needs. So what is community action now? It's your company, as your corporation. Is that's your brainchild, right? Like, you created that, or is that something that you stepped into?
That's my baby, but it belongs to the communities in which we serve. We're a nonprofit agency. We've been in the territory now since 2015. We were legally organized in the state of Georgia in 2014, but we operate in both locations. We provide an arm of services. One is advocacy. The other is community outreach programming, which provides after school summer camp programming, as well as May camps for youth. We provide workforce development training. Right now, I'm so excited, as a part of our disaster management arm of services, we are providing, in partnership with a Share the Sun program through, what is it called? St. Thomas. I'll come back to it because I can't remember right off. But it's Share the Sun program where we're providing um, highly discounted rates on solar devices. I alluded to the fact that people are constantly having power outages, and that, that creates a couple of things. That creates stress. Okay. I mean, just imagine getting up for work in the morning, your power is off. You can't even plug in the iron.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you've got an electric stove, you can't cook. And if you have a refrigerator, which 99.99% of us do have,
Then, yeah, depending on how long the power's out, we talked about that offline. You talk about losing your appliances, losing your food. I mean, there's
yeah,
it's a ripple effect of
it's a
issues that
ripple
come along
effect.
with that.
Absolutely. It has a direct impact on food insecurity and I mean, your food is spoiled. Okay. If we're dealing with people at or below the federal poverty guidelines anyway, and the
Right.
food that they had is spoiled and they're getting public assistance to provide them with the food services sources, then what happens is they've got spoiled food. They've got to wait for the additional disbursement for the next month to even get. I mean, it creates so many things. So that's one of the programs that we are working right now with, and I'm so happy to have partnership with one of the Rotary clubs, Rotary East in St. Thomas, that is providing that amazing program. It's funded through CFVI as well as some private funders, but we are administering that program at the Romeo Malone Community Center for those that are moderate to low income residents that would like to have an alternative power source on island. They're able to come to the Romeo Malone Community Center. Now, some of the things that historically we've done on island, we've worked in community development, rehab projects in and around St. Thomas. We've done major distributions for disaster management. We've worked with the medical evacuees that were medically evacuated from St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John
Okay.
here in Atlanta. and also provided disaster case management services. We have a workforce development program through that supports participants at the Department of Labor, those displaced workers. We provide entrepreneurship and small business certification training. We provide Microsoft certifications, Intuit QuickBooks certifications, a lot of administrative as well as customer service, life skills, work ready trainings. That's a part of our workforce development component. We also host different groups that come off island and want to provide community service projects. Some of those community service projects look like community cleanup projects, revitalizing buildings within historic districts. That's the kind of stuff that we love to do and that we're really good at doing, and that we would like to begin to build even more. Our last project that we're working on, and which is really near and dear to my heart, this is a program that, quite honestly, this is the reason why Community Action Now was built. It's called the New Rock Youth Bill Diversion and Reentry Program, Pre-Arrest Diversion and Reentry Program.
Fantastic.
This program is specifically for at-risk youth and young adults between the ages of 16 to 26 that have had interactions with the criminal justice system or are at risk of having interactions with the criminal justice system. This program diverts individuals away from the criminal justice system and into care, into supportive services, and into educational services. What this does is it captures that very vulnerable population and provides them with guidance.
And that's what they need. You know, they need more than anything. And the right kind of structured guidance, because, you know, working with at-risk youth back in Virginia, you know, we talk about all these different dynamics that play a part into, you know, the socioeconomic makeup of these communities. And so you see that there are these kids who we witness a symptom, right? We see the behavior, but then when you get exposed to what their home life is, okay, now we understand the root cause of why you act this way. Yes, we used to have to hold you accountable for your behavior, but let's figure out how to fix the problem, right? So that you can have a better shot at a successful future. And I think that's what we have to continue to remove the layers, especially with our youth, that at-risk demographic. We've got to continue to peel back the layers and to do our best, because it is up to us as adults and people who have gone through various situations to reach back and to help understand what is happening so that we can figure out how to mitigate those things.
Solarized St. Thomas. It just popped in my mind. I was like, I'm having a brain fart over here. I've got to give them their props because they're amazing. But you're absolutely right. We've got to capture that population. And through this work, our work really it goes around in a circle because everything impacts the other. Every program that we work on impacts the other. So they're all interrelated and interconnected. I'll talk really briefly about our summer program. And what we call the program STEAM in Action, Leaders of Tomorrow. That is specifically for the summer program. The STEAM in Action Aftercare program echoes the same type of objectives. We focus on STEM technology, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, making sure children have real exposure to real things that they would like to do in their future. So it's very child-centered and child-focused as well as child-led. So it's very important that we give the youth an opportunity to kind of chart their own paths, okay? Although it is a very structured program, okay? So we don't do babysitting. That's not what we do. We provide a structured environment where children have learning objectives, okay, during our summer programs. And we're looking to launch our after-school program mid to late October. Everything is pending right now on COVID and funding assumptions. So as soon as we get a good, clear go ahead, then we're able to move forward. One of the programs that I am extremely excited about that we're working with the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands is because we're based out of the Romeo Malone Community Center in Savon. We've been green lighted to provide and go back out into the Savon community, okay, and develop. We've already kind of completed the development process for Savoneros United Now. Savoneros United Now, also known as SUN, is a leg. It's a DBA of Community Action Now, but it's specifically focused on the objectives and needs of the Savon community. It is to be led by residents in that community. So one of the things that we hope, well, we know will come out of this because it's already started. One of the main community concerns in Savon lately has been that of the basketball court. We had our first meeting back in July for Savoneros United Now. And that was the top of the chart concern is what's going on with the basketball court. One of the things that I'm so excited about the outcome. In that meeting, Commissioner Calvert White of Sports Park and Recreation was a part of that meeting. It is because of his department that we even have access to the Romeo Malone Center to be able to deploy these programs in the first place. But he was a part of that meeting and he heard the concerns of the community. Mind you, his department is not in charge of or responsible for the Savon basketball court, but he took it upon himself, him along with our fire chief, fire commissioner, and Senator DeGraff. They all came together and members of the community and said, you know what? We're not going to wait. We're going to get this basketball court together. So following the meeting of Savoneros United Now, it sparked that need and desire for the community to get up and do for self. And that's exactly what they did. With the support of Sports Park and Recreation, they went out, they revitalized the basketball court, they painted, they put up the lighting, they got the basketball hoops up. And they did what they needed to do as a community. They said that they wanted this, and they said, okay, sometimes the community just needs additional support. Our role is to inspire, enforce, and impact, and make sure that there's real impact that takes place. Okay, that's part of our advocacy. That's what we do. So when people say, what does our organization do? I always start with advocacy because our voice is really our strongest tool that we have, and we're really good at it. So that's accomplishment number one. Accomplishment number two that is undergoing now. Savoneros United Now will be an official DBA of Community Action Now. Terrific. It is going to be led by members of the community, so that Community Action Now is all over the place. We do all kind of stuff. Okay, but we want something specifically for Savon because we're based out of Savon, and that's what Savoneros United Now will be. Sure. But a part of our work is going to be going back into that community and using people within the community to do a community needs assessment. That community needs assessment will help us to understand on the ground what are the needs of Savon following Hurricanes Irma and Maria. Where are we at now? We did this back in 2008. So we did a survey back in 2008 of the community, but the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands has provided us with additional funding support so that we can relaunch this effort and really get some great outcomes and really begin to really engage the Savon community. So yeah, that's what we do. Those are the types of things that we do. We're really loud. We're loud on purpose.
All right, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yeah. So it's a unique experience in hearing the testimony there of the things you guys have already accomplished, because from where I came from in Virginia, the hardest part was the action, right? We always had meetings. We always had, people sitting around. We had, of course, some people complaining about stuff, but I find that it's very inspiring to see a community say, okay, this is an issue. This is what we need. Now we're going to go do it. And I know that works on several fronts. I mean, there's other legalities that sometimes prevent that from being able to happen. So I definitely want to ask, first I want to congratulate you guys for doing that, because it's amazing. It's amazing to get the buy-in of the community, because that's what you need first and foremost. But what have been and what do you see going forward as some of your larger obstacles?
We've had a lot of obstacles. The main obstacles are what you just said, meeting to meet. I have no time for that. We don't have no time for that. That's what we're called Community Action Now. We believe that if something is identified, that it needs to get done. And we kind of move with the attitude of by any means necessary.
Okay.
That's who we are. And that's the culture of Can. You know, some people don't like it, some people love it, but at the end of the day, we get outcomes.
Yeah.
And we work closely with government officials because we understand that they have a role. We
Mhm.
respect that role, and what we do is we hold them accountable to that role. So that's where that advocacy piece comes in, where it says, we've got this person elected in this position, so um, we will be the bill collector.
Sure.
Well,
You
that's who
know,
we are. I mean,
yeah.
in essence, we say, you know what? Okay, you've got that position, so that means you're supposed to be doing this. And we hold them accountable.
Yeah, hold her feet to the
And
fire.
yeah, it's a perfect marriage because the government officials, they're inundated with so many things, right?
Mhm.
And but we are too. And so
Everyone
is the
is.
everyone
It's
else
just
in
it's
the
different.
community. Yeah.
Everyone has stuff going on.
Yes, everyone has stuff going on. So you have to be able to identify. You have to have someone that is holding everyone accountable.
Right.
A part of what we do is doing that through our advocacy and saying, and it's not that we're trying to call people out or anything. We're just trying to help yourself to help the community.
Well,
And when
that's
we
what you're
hear
there
you,
for, and so many
yeah,
of them forget that at multiple levels. We know I deal with a lot of politicians back in Virginia and some other places, and so many of them forget that you're here to service the people.
yeah,
It's not about your title, it's not about your future aspirations. All that's well and good, but at the end of the day, your role, the reason why this role exists and you're in it, is because you're supposed to be helping the people overcome and meet needs. And we've got to do a better job. We have to do a better job of holding them accountable for that. And bringing the community together, because that's a loud voice. I know that lots of things that I've seen occur back in Virginia, a lot of the wins that we had was when the entire community came out and voiced concerns or had objections or had valid information to back up their positions, and then you put them in a position to have to do their job and
yeah,
do it ethically.
yeah. Because I mean, they hold us accountable when we have reporting that's not done. They send us an email. You need to get this in by this
Right.
deadline. So it's a we're helping one another. If and I think if more people viewed it as that, some organizations don't want to work with the government. To me, I mean, we're taxpayers. I mean, why would we not want to work with those that we're paying to do a job? That doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
So to me, it's like, okay, let's work together, happy go lucky in the best way that we can, right? It makes for a wonderful community when you can bridge the gap between government, community, NGOs, and just
Right.
make it all work,
Right.
and it lessens the burden on all if
Right.
everyone simply does their part. But sometimes the community needs a pick me up. Sometimes the
Yes.
community needs a motivation. And sometimes the community, after years and years of consistent disappointment, they actually need to see that something is being done. They don't
Oh,
want to consistently
completely.
hear that,
Agreed.
oh, this is going to happen. And, years go by and they're like, oh,
They're
nothing's
already
happening.
they're already disenfranchised by the time you come with new and fresh ideas. They're like, yeah, sure. It sounds
Yeah,
great, but it's never
whatever.
going to work out.
Yeah, like you guys are coming. Yeah, I mean, you have no idea how many times we got that when we first got there. They were like, oh, you guys are going to do what? Yeah, right. Yeah, we heard this before,
Right.
and it's a shame, but that's the culture that has been created. A part of our work is changing that culture
Right.
into a can. It's all about, it's all in the name. I believe in the name. It's can, community action now.
Right.
We can get this done. We can do that. So yes, we have a lot of naysayers. We have a lot of people that even told us, why would you even want your organization to be in Savannah? Why would you want it to be there? And you have no idea how many people discouraged us
Right.
from even taking the organization in Savannah. Oh, nobody's want to go there. It's dangerous. And I'm like, I walk down there all the time. I mean, I never got shot. I
Uh,
don't know what you guys are talking about.
yeah.
I mean, seriously,
Uh,
but I mean, people make things worse than they truly are. In one of the communities here in Atlanta, Buckhead was, this really upscale community. People getting shot over there all the time.
right. And so it's there's not really much to say about that. It's
Yeah,
perception
it's
versus reality.
yeah. The reality is the community is a wonderful community with families, with business owners, with retired individuals, with senior citizens, with veterans. amazing stakeholders, visionaries, just amazing melting pot community of amazing people with amazing culture and so much to offer. Not to mention, it is a beautiful historic community with
Right.
so much real history of the Virgin Islands. So why wouldn't we want to be there?
Exactly. So then the next question would be, how do we go about igniting this next generation to get back into their community? So, for example, growing up in a small area in Virginia, one of the things that we dealt with was a lot of my colleagues, peers, everybody went to college and everybody left, right? We're not coming back. I don't want no parts of this place. Bristol sucks, blah, 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 right? And I know there's more to that. Everybody who's watching this and will watch this later, there's a lot more to that. I'm oversimplifying it, but the fact remains is when people don't want to come back and give back, and you have to look at the generation that's at hand and coming up underneath you, how do you ignite them to want to stay and build their community versus taking off to go pursue something else?
So here's the reality. The reality is this: I'm a part of that generation that wanted to get away for whatever reasons I wanted to get away, right? Because there's a certain point in time where the world said this is not where you want to be, okay? But and that's in every community, okay, all over the place, okay? People always they want to grow up and they want to get away. The reality is that there are going to be some people that are inspired to come home, and there are those that are never going to come home.
Sure.
And then there's going to be an influx of new people that come in, new cultures, new things. That's just the way it works. But how do we inspire and capture those that may want to come home, and even those that are there, to inspire them to be a part of the change and really rebuilding their community, right? Number one, give them something to do. Started with the basketball court.
Right.
I mean, who wants to be in a ghost town where nothing's happening?
That makes perfect sense.
I mean, why would you want to be there? If there are no opportunities, why would you want to be there? Create opportunities. Opportunities start with programming.
Yep.
Okay. Make it attractive for them to want to stay. What is it that they're looking for outside that they can't get here?
Correct.
Opportunities. If all they see,
whether that's professional or social or what have you, it's having something.
If there's nothing for people to do, if they perceive it as the only thing that I'm going to be able to do when I grow up here is I'm going to graduate to the street corner. I'm going to be sitting over there on the other corner next to my friend's dad that's over there, that he's been there for the past 20 years. So my seat is next to his. Because there's nothing else to do. What else is there to do?
Right.
If you don't give them anything to do, then they're going to find something that is destructive to do, that is self-sabotaging to do.
And that's a great point. When we deal with trying to build an economy and we deal with development, I think this goes back to why your particular organization is seeing progress and change, is because you're not bringing stuff under the assumption that this is what the community needs. You're going to the community and finding out what they want. And there needs to be more of that. What is it that you guys want here? What is it that would keep you here in this area or in this state or in the territories, what have you? What can we do to further assist addressing the needs that you have, both economic and social, and educational? I mean, all the things that we see here across the board, and figure out what that is. So many times in politicians like to just say, okay, we're going to do this, and this, and everybody's like, we didn't ask for that.
Absolutely. It starts with what the community needs and what the community wants. But I think a valuable piece of this conversation is, what does the youth want? What does the young adults that are coming up?
Different.
It cannot be in a lot of these older communities, okay? We have an aging population, okay? And sometimes the aging population, although maybe the minority in the community, may be the loudest voice in the community.
Typically, that's the case.
Yeah, and see, what ends up happening is, because this is an aging population, the voice of the youth that are ultimately going to be the ones in that community once they've aged out. They're going to already make the decision, you know what, they don't want to change anything here. It doesn't make any sense. So just imagine a community where people says, you know what, we don't want 5G internet. We don't want it. We don't want any, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
we don't want any of that. We don't want any, flat screen televisions around here, right?
And
young people want to stay there.
Right.
You're leaving.
Right. And I think that's what we have to be. We, again, part of our charge is we have to identify those things, and we can't keep sitting around thinking, okay, well, this is how I like my town, but eventually you're not going to be in it.
You're not going to be in the town.
You have to be thinking about what needs to happen to sustain the town as a whole.
Absolutely. And then I think sometimes we get caught up with the historic. So you can have a perfect balance with historic and new.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? You can blend the two. It doesn't have to be one to where it doesn't make sense for the community to thrive. If you stay in a ghost town mentality, it's going to stay a ghost town and everyone's going to leave. So Absolutely. It will die. So you have to begin to incorporate the new generation, allow them a seat at the table, because when you leave, and you will leave, okay, you will leave.
That seat's going to be open.
So I haven't met a person yet that, not, that hasn't, that's gone to that age that hasn't, realized that they're going to transition, right? So I haven't met anyone, I don't know anyone that's made it out of here alive,
Yeah, right. Oh, goodness.
It's realistic. It's really not.
It is.
So yeah, I think that has everything to do with we have to allow them a seat at the table, and to not be intimidated by the change, but embrace that change. That doesn't mean you have to go tearing down the historic buildings. That means maybe we need to make them more technologically savvy.
Yeah, repurpose them. Leave that essence and change what it offers. Yeah, there's lots of opportunities out there.
Absolutely.
We have to be open to them. So, well, we are done for today. We're out of time. We didn't get anywhere. There's so many other things I want to talk about, but we'll have to bring you back on so we can have further discussions about things that are happening with you. I know that there are some really exciting ventures that you are exploring there in Atlanta, and we won't spoil it for anybody else. We'll wait till she comes back. But Iffat, thank you so much for taking the time out again to talk with us, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, and reach out to us. We would love your support at Community Action Now.
There it is, guys. I'll get the link and I'll put that in the description here when I post everything. Guys, as always, let's change the way that we think so we can change the way that we live. Until next time, stay blessed.